Hello बच्चों, welcome to Fun Scholar Academy. So today we are again here with a new topic, that is plant reproduction. In your book it may be given as growing plants. So we will know about plants in details in this topic. So firstly, what is reproduction? We must know, before we begin, we should know what is reproduction. Reproduction is a process by which a living organism produces its copy or replicates, whether it is a plant or animal, to produce a new individual. Like you see here, every organism, they look the same. Okay, they look the same. In plant also, if suppose this is a plant, okay, this plant also reproduces and forms another new plant. Okay, in humans also, suppose this is father, this is mother. So if they may get married and they reproduce, then a new baby is formed. Father, mother. What? New born baby. Okay. Here also see, some are small, some are large, some are larger. So they have, obviously the larger one has reproduced the smaller one. Okay. So reproduction is a process by which new organisms are formed, whether it be plants or animals. So let's read. Reproduction is defined as a process by which an organism, whether a plant or an animal, produces new individual. But in this chapter, we will learn about plant reproduction. That how plants reproduce to form new seedling or new plant. That's it. So we will learn this process in details in this chapter. Okay. Okay. First, to start with reproduction, we must know that can every plant reproduce, or what is being needed in the plant to carry out the process of reproduction? So, firstly see, this is a flower. This is the most attractive, colorful part of the plant. Even many flowers have sweet fragrance, like jasmine. We all like the smell of jasmine. So, why did nature produce flower? Have you ever thought about it? So that we can pluck it up and gift it to someone for Rose Day, Valentine's Day, or for doing puja. For that is the reason plants have produced such a beautiful thing called flower. No, plants have produced flower to carry out the process of reproduction. Okay, now let's read. Most of the plants bear flower. Okay, not all plants, but most of them do bear some flowers. These plants are known as flowering plants. So those plants, those can produce flowers, are known as flowering plants. Most plants produce new plants through seeds. And how are these seeds formed? The seeds are formed from flowering plants or from flowers. Okay. So why is flowers produced by the plants, and they are really the most beautiful and attractive part of a plant? Why? Because to attract insects. So what does the insects does? We will read in the next slide. But to attract insects or other animals towards it, why? For the formation of seeds from flowers. Okay. So let me write this for you. Flowers, then seeds. Seeds are being formed from flower, and from seeds a new plant is formed. Okay? Understood? How seeds come? They come from the flower. Why flower is the most important and beautiful thing created by the plant? To attract insects for the formation of seeds. And it is the most important organ for plant reproduction. Please write it down. Most important organ of plant reproduction. Okay, चलो फिर next slide. Okay, now plant reproduction versus animal reproduction. Plants produce through seeds. Okay, we have known that. Apart from seeds, plants can produce from leaves, roots, stems, and even buds. See, plants can reproduce through seeds. We have already known that. Apart from that, other parts are root, stem, and leaves. Okay, just now I have told you which organ is the most important for plant reproduction. It is nothing but the herb. Okay. Now, you know plants are fixed at a particular place. They can't move. Okay. So, plants are fixed. That is why they need help of other organisms or insects or birds for reproduction. They need help of other animals. So they are dependent on some other animals for the process of reproduction. So what are those organisms or what are the methods by which they do? They are dependent on insects, this I have told you, on wind, air, water for the process of reproduction. And lastly, I have told you that except seeds, they can produce from roots, stem and leaves. So this type of method is known as asexual reproduction or vegetative propagation. Asexual reproduction or vegetative propagation. What is vegetative propagation? Vegetative propagation is such a method in which a plant reproduces without using seeds. Then what do they use? They use their roots, stems, and even leaves to reproduce. Okay? Now animals, how are they different from plants in case of reproduction? Plants give birth directly to the newborn babies, or they are egg laying. Sorry, animals they give birth or they are egg laying. Okay, insects do lay eggs, birds they do lay eggs, amphibians, reptiles they do lay eggs, but mammals, we humans, we give birth to new babies. Okay, they uses what? Eggs for the process of reproduction. Here they uses flower, but in case of animals they use egg. Now animals can move from one another, so they don't need any agent or some other organism for the process of reproduction. They are completely dependent on self for the process. See, animals usually do not need any external help for reproduction. Okay, now most animals cannot reproduce from body part. Okay, except some simple animals like hydra. In case of hydra, what happens? Suppose this is a hydra and hydra lives under water. Okay, what happens? A bird appears. Okay, after some time, this bird separates from the hydra and with time it grows into another hydra. Okay, so in this process, the animal is doing something different from producing egg or giving birth. Okay, there are some animals which reproduce from what? Body parts. Example is hydra. Hydra. Please note down these points because these are very important for your Olympiad and both for your school. Okay, now reproductive parts of a plant. To know the reproductive parts, first we should know the main structure or basic structure of a flower. Okay, so it is given over here. Still, I am drawing for your convenience so that you can understand it in a better way. Okay. Okay. Now, now, this green color leaf-like structure emerging from the lower part of the plant is known as sepal. Okay, and this colorful part of the plant, which is bright red in color, and the most attractive one, right, red or some other color, this is known as petal. Okay, and this thing that is holding the flower, okay, this is known as thalamus, and this stalk coming out, this is known as pedicle. Okay, now this thin filament like structure, this is known as, stamen, and this pot like structure, this is known as pistil or carpel. So students, you must remember both the names, because if they ask you carpel and if you don't know the carpel's other's name is pistil, so you will get confused in the flower. I am repeating once again. The lower part that holds the flower is known as thalamus, and the stalk coming out from the thalamus is known as pedicle. Okay, the green leafy like structure, this is known as sepal. The colorful part is known as petal. Then a thin filament is coming out, this is known as stamen, and this pot shaped structure is known as pistil or carpel. Okay. Now, just let me show you. See, this is pedicle, this is receptacle or thalamus. Okay, this total part is known as pistil or carpel, and this filamentous part is known as stamen. This is petal, and green leaf like part is known as sepal. Okay, now let me show you. See, just now I have shown you. See how beautiful this is. This is what I did said, sepal, green leafy like structure. The colorful part is petal. Then the filamentous structure is known as stamen, and this pot-like shaped structure is known as carpel or pistil. Right? This part is known as thalamus, and this is pedicle. Right? Please do take a screenshot. Such a nice flower in 3D version. See, even you can move this flower. Zoom it, zoom out. Understood? Okay. So, next. Now, Another important thing you must know, when there are more than when there are more than one sepal or group of sepals, group of sepals, group of sepals. This, do you know what is known as? It is known as calyx. Similarly, when there are more than one petal, it is known as corolla. Again, when there are more than one what? Stamen, it is known as androecium. This is the male reproductive part of plant, and it is very important. So please do write it. And when there are more than one carpel, it is known as gynoecium. It is the female reproductive part of a plant. It is the female reproductive part of a plant. So question will be asked, which is the male reproductive part of the plant? Your answer should be androecium. What is the female reproductive part of the plant? Your answer should be gynoecium. When one sepal is counted, then it is known as sepal. When more than one sepal together, it is known as calyx. Same, one petal, more petal, corollas. One stamen. More stamens, group of stamens, androecium. Group of carpels, gynoecium. So, I have given you all the important points in this slide. Please note it down and do take a screenshot, because this is very important in your all kinds of exam. Okay, now what happens? What is pollination? You know plants, they can't move. So suppose one flower, suppose this is one flower. Okay. And this is another flower. This flower is male. This flower is female. Now you know that for the process of reproduction, male and female flowers must come together. Okay, that is why you do marriage. Okay, when a male father gets married to a female mother, then a newborn is formed. So that the male is in some separate plant and the female is in separate plant, or they are in the same plant but they are different with each other. So how will they mate, or how will the process occur? They need the help of some agent or some other insects or birds or animal. Suppose honeybee is that agent. So honeybee, what it does, as in the picture you see, it comes and sits in the flower for its nectar. Nectar is produced to make the pollinators or insects to eat that or drink that. While doing that, see, the stamens get stick to the animal, and when they fly to the next flower or the female flower, the stamen gets deposited here, and ultimately they form the seeds. Okay, so pollination is what? Pollination is nothing but a process by which pollen grains from male flower is transmitted to ovary of female flower is known as pollination. So let's read. Pollination is the process by which pollen, that is from male flower, is transferred from the male part or stamen. See, so stamen forms pollen or pollen grains of a flower to the female part, that is to pistil, to help production of seeds. That is known as pollination. See, this flower is having what? Pollen grains within the what? Stamen. This is stamen. Stamen produces what? Pollen grains. Now see, while the insect is taking nectar from the flower, the pollen grains get stick to the legs. And ultimately, when it comes to the female part, it deposits the pollen grain, from where ultimately seed is being formed. We will read this in the next slide. Okay, so this is pollination, by which male part of the flower, that is pollen grain, and they are produced by whom? They are produced by stamen, are being transferred to the female part of the plant, that is carpel or pistil, and ultimately leads to the formation of seeds, is known as pollination. Okay, I hope you have understood the concept well and good. Now, types of pollination. Okay, first is self-pollination, next is cross-pollination. Self-pollination means, self means what? I am the self. So, there are some flowers in which both stamen and carpel are present. Perfect example is hibiscus or China rose. The other name of hibiscus is China rose. See, it has the female part and also the male part. Ma'am, if they have both the male part and female part in the same flower, then why do they need pollinators? Because the plants can't move. It does not have a hand that it will take the pollen grains from here and deposit it in the female part, though they are in the same plant only. So, in this case, they need what? They need some agent. Like previously we have seen bee or some other insect. So obviously while taking the nectar, they will transfer the pollen grains to the stigma, ultimately leads to the formation of seed. When it happens in the same flower, then it is known as self-pollination. But when it happens between two different flowers, see, it is being crossed from this flower to this flower, from this flower to this flower. Then it is known as cross-pollination. Pollens move from the stamen to the pistil of the same flower or another flower on the same plant. That is pea plant. Also you write hibiscus. Cross-pollination Pollen grains from one flower reaches to the pistil of another plant of same species. Plant has to be different in case of cross pollination, but in case of same pollination it can be the same plant, same flower, or different flower of the same plant. I hope you have understood the concept well and good. Now an example is apple, sunflower. Apple, sunflower. Now let us watch one video.
Previously, we learned about the structure of a typical flower. Does it look like this? Yes, it does. The flower has these essential and non-essential parts as seen here. Let us understand the important roles of each part in this video. Let us begin with the female reproductive part first. Do you remember the structure? Yes, this is the pistil which further consists of three parts. The surface is the sticky part called stigma. It is sticky in nature so that the pollen grains can remain adhered to it when landing on the female reproductive part. It thus acts as the receiving center. Now this slender tube-like structure is known as the style. What do you think will this be useful for? Well, it acts as a channel for the male gametes to reach the ovary. Yes, it's like a bridge that helps to carry the pollen tube, which is a tube containing the male gametes. It leads to the ovary where the egg cell is present. Now we know what the function of this ovary is. It is the most important asset of the complete female reproductive part. It bears the female reproductive cell, that's the egg cell. So this was about the female reproductive part of the flower. Now let's have a look at the male reproductive part now. Is it called? Now let's have a look at the male.
So this thing I haven't told you yet. So this I have told you the total structure is known as pistil or carpel. Okay, which again consists of three parts. The upper part is sticky in nature, that is why the name is stigma. Why sticky in nature? So that pollen grains get stick to it just like Fevicol. You take a art paper, you put some Fevicol and then you add mica and then you just put the paper or just dip the paper like this and you will see that the mica gets stick to the Fevicol. Same thing happens with the stigma. Why it is necessary? Because the pollen grains are being driven by wind or air or by some animals or insects. So if the insect is coming here, it does not know that some kinds of reproduction is happening because of it. It is unknowingly sitting here. So it is very important for this part to be sticky so that it can just hold the pollen grains over there. Okay. Now this long part is known as style. Of how will you remember style? Stigma, sticky, easy. Style, this is a female part and girls do style a lot. Really? Yes, girls does. So that is why style is always present in case of female reproductive part. And the third one, it is egg-like structure or round in shape, that is known as ovary. It has egg cell. Yes, plants do also have egg cell. Okay, female reproductive part that bears the cell, those are necessary for reproduction is egg cell. Whether it is animal or plant, both has egg cell. Okay. So three parts: stigma, sticky so that pollen grains stick to it. Style is made. How will you remember? Girls do style a lot. So pistil is nothing but girls. That is why style. And why style being formed? So that the pollen grains from here they can travel and come to the egg cell. Okay, and ovary bears what? Egg cell. Animal or plants, every organism has egg cell within the ovary. Okay, now let's proceed.
The flower. Now let's have a look at the male reproductive part now. What is it called? It is the stamen. This part of the flower consists of two major sections. This slender section is called the filament and this bag on top is called the anchor.
So, similarly, we have male reproductive or part which is known as stamen. So, it is being divided into two parts. The upper part is known as anther and this produces pollen grain. And remaining part in case of ovary or in case of pistil it was style, but here it is filamentous, that is why its name is filament. Anther, filament. Anther produces pollen grains and the full structure is male reproductive part which is known as stamen. Okay, I hope it is clear to you.
The filament helps in holding this bag firmly. And what is the function of the anchor? It's the bag that holds several pollen grains inside it. Now what are pollen grains? These are the microscopic bodies that contain male reproductive cells of the plant. Now that we've learned about the essential parts of a typical flower, let us learn about the non-essential parts. These lower ones at the base are called the sepals. Well, these are the first structures that develop when a flower is formed. Does this give us a hint about its function? The sepals are meant for protecting the flower when it's developing. When the flower is just a bud and not yet completely formed, the sepals form a protective covering around it. This mainly prevents the desiccation of the internal structures. Next are the petals. We know that the petals are always brilliantly colored. They are bright and attractive. Ever wondered why? Well, the only reason is to attract birds and insects for pollination. Wait, we have been talking about pollination since long. What exactly is this process? Can you guess what it could be from its name? Well, the name suggests that it's got to do something with pollen grains, right? Yes, pollination is simply the process of transferring the male gametes from the anther to the female reproductive organ. That means
All this I have already told you. I am showing this video so that the concept becomes crystal clear in your mind. So let's proceed.
pollen grains from one flower will be transferred to the stigma of the same or any other flower. Is this so? Yes, that's what pollination is. Next, let's understand this process in detail.
So there will be another video regarding pollination in plant.
We concluded the previous lesson with an introduction about pollination. It's simply the process in which pollen grains from the anther are transferred to the stigma of the same flower or, for that matter, stigma of any other flower. So do you think that the definition is trying to give us a hint that pollination is of different types? Yes, that's correct. The fact that pollination can occur in the same flower or can involve two different flowers of the same or different plants gets us to the types of pollination. Let's understand the types using an example. Let's take a single plant which has these beautiful flowers. Now imagine one case where the pollen grains from this flower are transferred to the stigma of the same flower. The second case is where the pollen grains from this flower are transferred to the stigma of another flower, say this flower belonging to the same plant. This time, where the pollination occurs in the same flower or between different flowers of the same plant, is called as self-pollination. It is the type that involves a single.
This I have already told you. Just see in this video, same flower, flower of same plant. But in case of cross pollination, there will be two plants. Let's watch.
Flower or the flowers of the same plant. Now imagine the transfer of pollen grains occurring between this flower and another flower found on a different plant. This pollination is called as cross-pollination. This means where the pollen grains travel from the anther to the stigma of a flower present on a different plant. So we have self-pollination, which involves a single flower or different flowers of the same plant, and we also have cross-pollination that involves two flowers present on different plants. Now tell me one thing, we are saying that pollination.
Now I hope the concept is very much clear to you through this video. So let's proceed further.
Is the transfer of pollen grains. But who brings about the transfer? I mean, who will carry out the translocation of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same or different flowers? There are special agents that carry out the transfer. These are called as pollinating agents. Non-living factors like wind or water carry out pollination in many cases. These are called as the abiotic agents of pollination. Similarly, living organisms like honeybees, butterflies, birds, or others that feed on flower nectar are also responsible for pollination. Such agents are included in the category of biotic agents of pollination. Now that we've learned about the typical structure of a flower as well as the process of pollination, let's find out what happens after pollination is successfully carried out. Next, let's look at the process of fertilization in detail.
So we will come to this in the next slides. Now, how are seeds formed? So, after pollination, what happens? We will know about it now. First, let us read. Fertilization is a process in which pollen grains, that is male cell, joins with the ovule or female cell. Ovule is also known as egg. Okay. Inside the flower's ovary to form a seed. This process helps in the production of new plant. So what happens? This pollen grain is what? The male cell. The pollen grain is the male cell. So look at this picture. The male cell gets stick to which part? Obviously, ma'am, stigma. After that, a tube-like structure is formed. You can see over here. This is known as pollen tube. What happens? See, it has egg nucleus. I mean, it has egg and it has male cell. So those two fuse together, okay, and form what? Zygote. And after that, it forms seed, right? The seed has everything, seed coat, embryo and cotyledon. And if the seed gets proper condition, then it forms the seedling. Okay? I am repeating once again. Pollen grains are actually what? The male cell. This is not mole, this is male. So I am writing it again. M-A-L-E, male cell. What happens? The male cell gets stick with the sticky part. That sticky part is known as stigma of pistil or carpel. After that, a tube-like structure is formed through which the pollen grains reach to the egg cell. After that, the egg cell fuses with the male cell. And what it will form? It will form embryo or seed, which later will form seedling. Okay? Understood? Okay, let's understand it with the help of video now.
Now we know what pollination is and how it can be brought about. It is the process that involves transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or another one. Now let us have a look at what happens after pollination is successful. If pollination is successfully carried out, then the male gamete will fuse with the female gamete, giving rise to an embryo formation. Wait, we know this process has a specific name. And what is it? It's called fertilization. It is the process that involves the fusion of male and female gametes to give rise to an embryo. Now let us see how fertilization occurs in flowers. For this process to occur, both the gametes need to be close to each other, right? But how is this possible? The male gametes from the pollen grains deposited on the stigma of the flower start traveling towards the ovary through a tube. This tube is called the pollen tube. Where do you think the pollen tube will travel from? It will travel through the entire style and finally reach the ovary. Here, the male gamete fuses with the female gamete to form a single cell structure. Now, what do we mean by a single cell structure? It means that the fusion of the two will create a single unit called a zygote, which will further develop into an organism. That's how it works. In short, this is how the process of fertilization occurs in plants with flowers. Are you wondering what happens to all these parts of the flower post-fertilization? What will happen once the embryo starts developing? Will all these parts remain intact? After fertilization is completed, the ovule develops into a seed, the ovary develops into a fruit, and the other accessory parts like the petals and the...
Yes, this part is very important. See, ovule forms the seed and ovary forms the fruit. Okay, so fruit is the outer part, ovary, and within it, when the cell is being fused with the egg, it forms ovule or seed. So seeds are always inside the fruit, not outside. And with time, obviously you watch that all the leaves or all the petals or carpels or stamens, everything dries out, and from the flower it forms fruit. That is why flowers are very necessary, and inside the fruit it contains seed. So fruit is the outermost part which is being formed from ovary, and seeds are formed from ovule. This is very important. Please take a screenshot or play the video again to watch it.
Sepals fall off. This means the identity of the flower completely changes when it turns into a fruit. Yes, that's how it is. Now, when the seed is planted in the soil, it will germinate into a new plant during favorable conditions. And this plant will grow flowers that will carry out pollination, which will give new fruits and thus new plants. This is how the cycle continues. A single seed that gives us a plant, which on flowering will undergo pollination and give us a fruit. The fruit contains seeds that hold new life in itself. When planted in soil and during favorable conditions, the seed germinates and a new plant is formed. That's how the plant life cycle goes on.
So I hope the first part of this lecture is clear to you. Next day we'll continue this topic in the next class. Till then, study this, memorize this, learn this, and make concepts clear in your head. See you in the next video. Till then, keep studying. Goodbye.